Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, a person who believes that this wasn't set up by our own government is an idiot.
So let's talk about this, and I'm gonna try to go over this a little slower because I think it's a little more serious than the misplaced modifier, or a little more difficult than the misplaced. I won't say serious. Okay, so it is a word, phrase, or clause. The modifier is supposed to modify is not there. So the word, phrase, or clause that it's supposed to be modifying is not there. So we have the modifier in the sentence, but we're missing the thing that is being modified. Okay? Not the same as misplaced. Misplaced means that the modifier and the thing being modified both are in the sentence. They're just in the wrong place, or something is separating them. So let's look at this. Let's look at an example, rather. Looking through the binoculars, slowly swam across the lake. Well, I think it's kind of obvious here. I made it kind of obvious that we don't know what is looking through the binoculars here. We know the binoculars didn't slowly swam across the lake, so we know we're missing something, obviously. So, this is a really basic understanding of this idea, this concept, that what is being modified is not actually in the sentence. But even if we add the thing that can be modified, meaning the duck, we just went from dangling to misplaced modifier, but no, we actually didn't. We have a modifier there, a thing being modified there technically, but we know that that can't be it. So technically we don't have the thing being modified. So we would have to definitely, add the modifier. So whether it's missing completely or whether there's something there that could be modified, but we know logically it's not being modified, we still have a dangling modifier. This would be a much better revision of the sentence. Looking through the binoculars, I saw the duck slowly swim across the lake. We needed I. We needed the one who was looking through the binoculars. Yes, we needed to know who that was. We know it's not going to be a duck, and we know we can't just go with it, nothing. So here it is, a much better revision of that and a correction of that dangling modifier. Yes. Okay. So dangling modifiers again. Always remember when you're dealing with dangling modifiers, live things and machines do action. Okay, if there's some action verb, we need to look for what is doing the action. What is doing the action? If we don't have that there, then we know we're probably missing something. Okay, now when you have this kind of problem, you're definitely going to have to add something to the sentence. It's not simply rearranging it like we did with the misplaced modifier. With dangling modifiers, we actually have to add something to the sentence in order for the sentence to be corrected. That thing being added could be, the thing being modified, could be anything, but the point is we must add something to the sentence in order to correct a dangling modifier. Yes. Let's take a look at this. Staring out over the ocean, the hurricane force winds were daunting. Yes. I don't think the hurricane would be staring, although we know hurricanes have a big eye in the middle, but I think that's not a real eye like we have eyeballs. I think that's another kind of eye. So I think we're missing what was staring out over the ocean. And I think the thing that was staring must have been people, some kind of people. Well, let's look at the revision of this sentence. Staring out over the ocean, Matt saw the daunting hurricane force winds. So there it is. We know it's Matt that is doing this, the staring. We had to add Matt. I mean, we could have added anything. We could say the scientist, Matt, the police officer, the medic. I mean, we could have replaced or put in anything, but the point was we had to put something in. We couldn't leave it as it was because, in other words, we couldn't leave the modifier dangling or without something. Okay, let's look at this sentence. When in third grade, my mother went back to college. Wow. So someone's mother was a genius, probably in the world book records of the youngest person ever to go to college in third grade. Well, no, back to college. That means maybe they were in second grade in college. No, obviously we're missing something here. It's really simple here. I think we needed to add the person who was in third grade because I don't think it was the mother. When I was in third grade, now it's making sense. My mother went back to college. Okay, so there we have, our dangling modifiers. And I think, if we look at it in this way, if we look at it or try to remember it in the sense of the thing being modified is not in the sentence as opposed to misplaced modifiers where both are in the sentence, I think it'd be much easier to remember here. I don't want to go over these. I think you should spend some time with the SCORM to go over them. I do want to talk about this one though. When 9 years old, my father enrolled in medical school. Here we have the same issue. Again, I think it's a little easier to see now. Obviously, the father is not going to be, again, it's the father and the mother now. They're married. One was in university in second grade, and the other father, he was probably first grade since he's going to get his doctorate now. Okay, so obviously we know that, that's not the case. When I was 9 years old, my father enrolled in medical school. So I think you got the idea of what you should do when you're talking about, fixing the dangling modifier, that you need to add something. Okay, so here's some sentences here. I want you to go over them carefully with the SCORM to make sure that you're able to, one, identify, because when you look at these sentences, you definitely, okay, if you're looking at this video because you want to improve your score in SAT, looking at these sentences and being able to notice the problem is very important. If you're looking at these videos to improve your writing, then obviously, you want to write these sentences down so as to do that, improve your writing. So I'm going to let you deal with the SCORM here and do that. Okay, so let's talk about dangling participles. Yes, dangling participles here. Usually those words ending in ing, although we know them also to be gerunds, but here we're talking about participles. Carrying a flashlight, the patch was more visible. And the reason that, these are really easy to detect, dangling participles, because the way they're used in a sentence usually is almost as if they are showing action, and what comes after it, you have to say, well, can this thing do that action? Like carrying the path is not going to carry a flashlight. Obviously, it's going to be a person. So carrying a flashlight, I could see the path. So as soon as you see, especially when you see a sentence start with a participle phrase, a participle in an ing phrase, then you know there should be something after it that did that thing that is being implied in the participle phrase. Yes. Here's another one. Using binoculars, the pond was clearly defined. Obviously, the pond is not going to be using binoculars. Another dangling participle phrase that a dangling participle ending ing, dangling participle phrase that implies something being done. So immediately after, we need to put who is doing that or what is doing that thing. Using, if it's a machine, of course it can do that thing. If it's not, then we start to have to ask, well, can it actually do it? Using binoculars, I can definitely do that thing. So that would be a good revision for that. Okay, so I want you to go over finish going over the score so you can get that last one. Okay, so let's look at this a little longer. We got multiple sentences here, but I think by the time we get to the second sentence, you should be able to see what's going on. I suggest that the form teacher of each class collect the students' headphones at the start of the day and return them after school. By doing so, the school management need not worry about theft in school. So, is there anything wrong with that particular phrase there? Ask yourself that question as you read it. And let's look. School management collects the headphones at the start of the day. So I think probably what we needed to do was put by implementing this procedure of school management, because it's not the school management that was expected to collect the headphones. Of course, it was the staff. Okay, so let us continue here looking at some more modifier problems. I know I'm probably going fast, but I want to get as many of these in here as possible. After you keep going over these and you keep seeing these, they become easier and easier to identify. Hiking in the woods. A skunk crossed Jane's path. Yes, having been sprayed by a skunk, she screamed loudly. While hiking in the woods obviously is the thing that that is modifying. It is a participle phrase, and I don't think a skunk is going to do that thing that's being implied. I think it's going to be Jane. So we need to deal with that. Okay, so having been sprayed by a skunk, I think is, of course, we know it to be a participle phrase, and I don't think it's going to be, yes, it is going to be correct. Yes, so that is okay, because she's not doing the skunk spraying, she's being sprayed by the skunk, and I think the thing being implied, the action being implied in the participle phrase could actually be done by, or having had done to by she. Okay, I think you get the point of what I'm trying to say here. Okay, so let's. I need for you to go over these on the SCORM activity and continue to go over them, and that, of course, and that. I'm skipping some things. Obviously, I'm skipping some things. You can see that. This is where I want to be. Modifier tips and tricks, things to remember. Always put the modifiers right next to the words they modify. That's the first thing you want to do in your mind or on paper if you're writing. If the modifier seems a bit confusing, just rewrite the sentence to avoid the problem. And you have to really, ask yourself, can this happen? Can that happen? Is that possible? Is that logical? And all of that. And then you can deal with that. Short adverbs like only, barely, and often are especially troublesome. So you got to make sure they're in the wrong place. Remember, if they're quantifying a noun, put them after the verb, not before the verb, so that the reader is clear as to what noun or number is being quantified. Yes, yes. Okay, the SAT. Let's look at this sentence here, and of course this is from the SAT. On Friday, the local police arrested many demonstrators, especially while picketing the construction site. Now, I know you probably noticed it right off. Yes? Why, and here's the question, why were the police picketing the construction site? I don't think it was the police doing that. I think it was the demonstrators. So we need to make sure, especially while picketing the construction site, is close to what it needs to be close to. Yes? 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 Okay, so I know yeah, right. Especially those who were picketing the construction site. We needed to put the demonstrators in really close to the modifier here, because before the modifier we got two things that could be possibly modified, and we're not really sure which one it is. And I mean, you know, so just to make it sure, I mean, we could have said, okay, it's close to, you know, what is being modified, and that is okay. But in this case, I think the two things that could have possibly modified were too close together, so we needed to make it even clearer, we made sure we put the things being, or the ones being modified directly into the modifier by adding those who. Okay, making it clear that we're talking about the demonstrators here. All right, let's look at this again. Millions of dollars are spent each year to get rid of fleas on dogs and cats, causing a variety of diseases. And of course, cats and dogs cause a variety of diseases, like the sentence says. But I don't think that's what the author meant. So here we have another issue where we have the modifier not quite modifying what's supposed to be modified. I think that is definitely going to be to rid dogs and cats of fleas, which can cause a variety of diseases. So we needed to put fleas closer to a variety of diseases and dogs and cats further away. Misplaced modifier. Yes, let's look at this one. Armed with the new tools for manipulation of genes and proteins, vaccines are devised by scientists fighting everything from food poisoning to cancer. Well, I don't think it's the proteins. Yes, I don't think it's the proteins that I don't think it's the vaccines that are manipulating the genes and proteins. I think it's the scientists. Yes, the scientists. And we need to make the scientists clear. We need to make it clear by putting scientists closer to the manipulation of genes and proteins. You know, with these sentence improvement questions, when you have something underlined, it's really easy to ignore everything else and only focus on that thing which is underlined. But we need to make sure we are looking at the sentence as a whole in its parts, and we're considering everything and not just what is underlined. I apologize for going so quickly, but you know, time is of the essence for you and for me. So, at any rate, go back over the SCORM. If you need to, watch the video again. I know I talk kind of fast, but if you need to, go back over them again. Nobody's going to be angry with you for going over the second time. You might actually end up being happy with yourself for doing that. Modifiers. We got to make sure we put them where they're supposed to be. It's like an advertisement.
In Islamic school.
We'll talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, that's rolling the hard way. We don't want to roll quite that hard. We want to get one of them little minibuses.
Welcome to the newtimeflash.com. Welcome to the newtimeflash.com.
Oh, yeah. All right. All right. Check this out.
I would not be asking any one of you to take this leap if I did not have complete faith in your ability to succeed. Your courage will never be more needed than it is today.
I tell you what, a person who believes that this wasn't set up by our own government is an idiot.